Yeah, so the question was, this was still a lot of information. Where do we start with all of these resources? I would say that if you are interested in water quality, a great place to start would be the water quality portal.
So put in the address or the location and then
And see what's there.
will that link us to other resources that we might not know are available?
That's a good question. I don't know that it actually links to other databases.
Can you do a little demo right now?
Sure.
So one thing to keep in mind is that on some of the federal sites, if you go looking for something, and they know there's information there, but it's not their information, they will maybe give you an address, and then they will say exit site. So you know that it's not their data, and you're going to leave their site, but they try to help. And it's not always there, but often it is.
Okay, so we have a request from the audience to search for data on Cordley Lake
Or anywhere else.
in Pinckney, Michigan. Okay, so this is great.
Just say Savannah, that's why they're.
Okay.
Is that too broad?
So we're gonna do, let's just step through this. County, what county is, I like this example of the Cordley Lake. Okay, do you know the county?
Yep, Livingston County.
Okay. So we've got that part set, and then I'm gonna scroll down, and I believe you said you're interested in a
Inland
lake. Okay, so we'll subset here for lake, reservoir, and impoundment data. I think we should keep organization ID open because you probably just want to see what's available.
Right.
And then over here, if you would like to, you can subset for particular types of media. So if there were biological measurements made, we care about water, but I think we should just leave it open for at this point. Characteristic groups, this is another way to subset the data down to classes of characteristics that are measured. So you can see metals, microbiological, nutrients, organics, physical. That's another one that I would like to leave open at this point. We can come back to this. This is that upstream and downstream search. Okay, so now what we'll do is, let's just take a look. Okay, so we can see that there are 200 or so sites within that county at which there would be data available. We can take a look at the map. We gotta zoom way in there.
So would it be, well, wait, would it be
Mhm.
sensitive enough to like, in our area, there's a natural gas pipeline that went in, and they had a little spill, and they used a lot of water to flush it out, basically to dilute it.
Mhm.
Would it be sensitive enough to say, to have us go, oh wow, all of a sudden there was this water going in this pipeline?
Oh, so so groundwater being withdrawn to flush out a site where there was a spill. That's a good question, and it would depend on what kind of monitoring is happening here, but that might be something that you could see in groundwater well levels potentially, but I don't know enough about what the sampling scheme is like here. That's something that people in the Michigan Water Science Center might be able to tell you more about. So at this point, we have this choice to download information about the sites, sample results, etc. Sample results is the one that I would do. And this is not my computer, so I'm not actually going to hit download data here. I think this is Tamara's computer. But you can see the sites shown here within this county and see the data source as well.
So that's data collection points that we're looking at?
Yeah, these are sites. Yep, and then at each of these sites, there's presumably some data associated with it, which you could see if you were to take that next step to download the data. Yeah, and for those of you who either are more tech savvy or know people who are more tech savvy, this system has very robust web services so that you can actually construct service requests to the system programmatically, kind of machine to machine, to pull data back in. So if you had a system where you wanted to be regularly bringing data in, this would be a way to do that programmatically. So I do want to, would you like to see the downstream upstream search? Okay. Okay, and I'll admit it's been a little while since I've used this. It's always a little risky to do live demos. Okay, type a place and state. Would someone from the audience like to call out a place that you would like to see? Okay. Arlington Heights, Illinois. Cook County? Okay. And I believe the way this works is, okay, so I clicked on a site there, and then I'm prompted to select a navigation type, upstream on the main stem, upstream with tributaries, and likewise downstream on the main stem or downstream with diversions. So do you want to look upstream or downstream? The person that requested this location? Okay, upstream. And why don't we look, let's say, 200 kilometers upstream. Oh, that was next to the search bar. It said kilometers. Yeah. So now what we're seeing are monitoring locations that are on the river network upstream of this particular location. And let's see, can you click on this to get more information about it? The Des Plaines. Yeah, and I will say that this functionality here is in beta form. So, and I'm not as slick at this as other people may be. Okay, so it looks like this was reset, but this is basically how the thing works. You can look upstream, and I think you can also, if we were to do a query upstream or downstream and then go back down to the get results, the results will be filtered based on that query as well.
Are there tutorials for learning this sort of thing?
That's a good question. The question was, are there tutorials for using this? So here's how to use the water quality portal. And I will say that this system is somewhat utilitarian in that it's just meant to get the data that an individual might be looking for. And it doesn't necessarily go a whole lot beyond that in terms of doing any analysis. Okay, I saw a question back here. Yes.
You have a little fun section at the end there, like a Facebook blog or something where people have posted up there like, look, I was looking for such and such, and this is what I did, and look what I found. You can go and say, oh, look, they found all about whatever it was and how they did it. We'll have a few successful attempts to utilize it.
Yes, that's a very good idea. Or doing something, maybe people could tweet at us or something like that. I like that idea. Thank you. Yeah, and in the back.
Was USGS asked at all to provide data on the Foxconn, boondoggle in Northwestern Wisconsin?
That's a very good question, and I don't know the answer. I would need to go back to colleagues at the Wisconsin Water Science Center to find out what activities there may have been as a result of that. But I do know Wisconsin has very active groundwater research, and so if there are implications, is the proposal to withdraw groundwater for the purposes there is surface water? Oh, it's a lake. Okay. Okay. 7 million gallons per day diverted from Lake Michigan. Well, I've heard about it just because I live in Wisconsin. I don't know all that much about the particular issue. Yes.
This is great, Emily. Just one unique aspect of water, unlike the Energy Department has a government head at the nation's capital, water is regulated at the state level, doesn't yet have a water head, but because of this initiative, is it falling under someone, or is there a move to have a specific voice or leader in Washington?
Well, that's a good question. So the Department of the Interior does have a secretary that's there in Washington, and that's Ryan Zinke. Okay, so you know that already. So was the question about state water science centers, or okay? So the state water science centers are associated with the federal agency, the U.S. Geological Survey. They're just located in states, so they're within the. Yes.
Remember you said that there are 13 federal agencies
Mm-hmm.
that have water authority.
Oh, I see.
So the difference is if it's regulatory, and kind of the Clean Water Act, then you might go to EPA because they issue the permit, or the state agency issues the permit. But a lot of times that some of those decisions are based on scientific data collected by USGS. You know, if you're talking about a dam, it's going to be the Army Corps of Engineers. So you gotta, you know, what's your problem? What's the issue that you're trying to track? And then this gives you the science behind some of this
Mhm.
issue.
Yeah. Yes, in the back there.
How do you deal, how do these tools deal with data validation? How do you disclose the metadata information about the data, or is there some kind of grading of the quality?
That's a great question. So, and the question was data validation and having metadata about the quality of the data in this system. So the water quality portal is what I would term a big tent, in that if you find a way to submit your data, which there are a lot of tools out there, including freely available ones, citizen scientists can submit data into EPA's storette, and it will make it into the water quality portal here. So if there's a metadata model that is established, and there are some minimum requirements for submitting data into the system. And beyond that, it is at this point, buyer beware. So there's an assumption that the user bears responsibility for interpreting the metadata, but you really do have to have enough metadata even to be able to make that determination. At some of those dialogues on the Internet of Water, there was just really interesting perspective from someone who grows grapes in California, who said basically, I don't care what the quality of the data is. I'd rather have a number, even if there's no uncertainty associated with it, rather than nothing, rather than just having no information. But there are different camps about this, and the USGS has we have a very strong culture around quality assurance of our information and accuracy and precision of our information. So the USGS data, which that's one of the metadata fields in here, so you can see what's USGS data or from other sources. But that is something that there's been discussion about having different classifications of data quality. This is in contrast to another resource that I shared on here, another data portal that's called the Groundwater Monitoring Network data portal. And that's actually a highly curated list of groundwater sites that have groundwater observations. And the sites have been selected, and much of the data does come from states. Those sites have been selected based on the length of record and the quality of data being made available. But it's interesting to think about from my perspective, because I think about data a lot, these two different models of either having a highly curated set of sites where the data are going to be robust and of high quality, versus the water quality portal, which is just about getting it all out there. Two very different models with different implications. And I'd say that we're kind of testing it out in terms of, right now in practice, in terms of the success of these systems. Yes?
This is a question I kind of hate to ask, and if you don't want to answer, that's okay. But I'm thinking in terms of the quality of
Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to take that one on. Yeah, Judy Beck may have comments on this.
One of the things you can always ask when you're getting data.
Step up to the microphone, please.
You can always ask when you're asking for data, was there a quality assurance plan? Now, the federal government in the past has had a policy that if you're going to have data, it's going to be quality assured, whether it's USGS or EPA. And if you get money from the federal government to do a grant, you usually have to provide a quality assurance plan if you're going to be collecting data or doing any monitoring. But to save you some aggravation or concern, then you simply ask the question, is there a quality assurance plan? And you could even request to see it.
I'm not seeing any other hands, and I would like to just, oh, yes, you may.
How do we follow up on the progress of the Internet of Water?
Okay, so the question is how to follow up on the progress of the Internet of Water. I mean, I think it would be organizations like the League of Women Voters, I think, have a role in the Internet of Water because it's about making data available to people on the ground who are wanting to get access to it. So there's the activities, there's a website which is at the top here where you can see what's going on, and I would encourage you, if you're interested, to be in touch with the folks at Duke University that are spearheading the non-federal side of it, to talk to them about how the League of Women Voters might be involved. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions. So, I'm not sure what's next.
I think we have a party, don't we? Like, party time?
Well, 5:30.
Oh, so we have time to talk, which I think is a good thing to do.
There was that.
Yeah. I ran off with somebody's pen. Okay, who had a question that didn't get heard? It was Margaret. Go ahead.
Has the US Geological Survey had materials related to climate change moved from its website?
That's a good question. Do you want to answer that one?
So there was the question was, has the US Geological Survey had materials related to climate change removed from the website? And if so, where are those materials archived? The USGS in the last year or two has been making the transition into a new web content management system, which is a way to organize material within a website. And when the climate, and this is actually something you can Google to find more information about, including the formal USGS response on it, but there was, upon this move into this new content management system, there were the system is a lot harder to locate information in. And so from the surface, it appeared that a search result that previously would have returned a lot of results, or a search that would have returned a lot of results, then didn't following that. And that's a known issue about the website that is something that's happening within the Bureau, it was, I guess, related to technical issues with basically just a website that didn't work properly. And the timing of it was really unfortunate because it was timed with change of administration, et cetera. So we have, the USGS has policies about, what material needs to be archived versus what types of records, or websites do not need to be archived. And I know that we're complying with that, doing our best to comply with our policy on that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yes.
It's no longer accessible to the Geological Survey's website
the Wayback Machine, is that what it's called? Oh, so the question was whether the Library of Congress has a record, which I believe they call it the Wayback Machine, or maybe that's another entity that has this record of the internet. That would be a place to access it. What I can say about USGS information that's on the web, though, is that we typically do not put anything on websites that has not been published in reports, or if there's data associated with it that is still accessible. We view what's on the web, text on pages on websites, as being a little bit more transient, and those really important records are things like reports, policies that we may have, peer-reviewed journal articles, all of which should be available, and the data as well should remain available.
Do any of these websites integrate with NOAA information, the data that they have collected on water usage, and it's not just ocean?
Yeah, okay, so the question is any of this integrated with NOAA's information on water use? I know a bit about what's going on at NOAA, but I actually did not know that they did work in the water use arena. So I'd be interested in hearing about it, just because I don't know. NOAA, the National Weather Service, uses USGS data to do flood prediction at their river forecast centers, and they also are working on something called the National Water Model, which predicts flow at 2.7 million stream reaches across the continental US. There's a initiative that's just starting, a collaboration between USGS and NOAA to actually couple models with their national water model that's predicting flow. On top of that, to couple models for temperature, constituent transport, like nutrient transport or other things that dissolve into the water, and sediment transport as well. So that's something that's coming in the next 3 to 5 years or so, the water quality modeling on top of the wide-scale flow modeling.
Thank you.
You're welcome.